you remember a single thing that Amy Klobuchar or Gretchen Whitmer said?
I know that Amy Klobuchar made a couple of jokes about Obama being Michelle's husband. I remember that joke. And there was some other joke about how Trump was gonna have to, well, you're still gonna have to submit your change of address form after November 3rd. Like there were a couple of those sort of jokes that she told, at all of the debates. Other than that, no, I don't think so.
No, of course not. And so, by the way, I told them they should go off a prompter, be like real people. And then I have a massive sneeze in the middle of John's point, just to buttress my point. Anyways, okay, and that's my point. Klobuchar made a couple of, I guess, what are now, well, I don't know if I'm inventing this or this is super old, but mom jokes. So she made a couple of mom jokes, like I make dad jokes. They're awful. I hope my dad jokes are better than her mom jokes. Okay, we'll see. Anyway, and Gretchen Whitmer went back to the well on, Joe Biden saved the auto industry. She's the governor of Michigan. Of course, she's going to say that Biden had that famous line when they were up for re-election in 2012. Obama saved GM and killed Bin Laden, and they're going back to that well. But really, just a giant nothing burger from the other politicians, which then leads to probably the most relevant, not the best speech, but the most relevant line of the night, which is from John Kasich. So he's the Republican governor of Ohio that spoke. He obviously was in the presidential primaries last time around against Trump. He nearly won. He was in the top 3 with Trump, which was a little bit unexpected. So he did really well. So for him to switch over and support the Democratic nominee is kind of a big deal in politics. But the line I'm referring to is when he said, I know Joe and he won't turn sharp left. Oh boy. So that's the Republicans basically saying, look, remember, 0.5% of us are supporting you. So you owe us everything. And you better not do anything that's actually left wing or progressive. Otherwise, you'll be betraying us and we made you president. That's point 1. And point 2 is if he later wants to run against Joe Biden, he could say, well, I mean, I didn't know he was going to turn sharp left, but it turns out he turned sharp left. Yes. And so to me, that's the most disturbing line of the night, and one that I fear will echo the loudest. Because both establishment Republicans and establishment Democrats are incentivized to keep repeating that and having it ring in Joe Biden's ears. So I don't want it to be the most relevant line of the night, but I'm afraid it's going to be.
Yeah, can I briefly say about Kasich? One of the things that bothered me the most is that I know that the Democrats they're just desperately hoping to find someone who seems like the old school, relatively moderate, generally from the Northeast sort of Republican, which was never really that common. And they were really not that nice to begin with, but they think that he's that sort of person. But the thing is, like when he gives a line like he did, where he's like, me and Joe, we disagree on things, but that's okay. That's America. We're not talking about, whether the corporate tax rate should be 26% or 26.5%. Kasich doesn't believe that women should have reproductive freedom. Like these are fundamental disagreements that have massive effects on people's lives. They're not small things. And the Democratic Party has routinely attacked Kasich and other Republicans for holding those positions. Those are not acceptable disagreements for us to have. Those are not around the margins of people's lives. Those cut to the core of people's lives and their ability to exercise their own choices over what form their life comes in. But because he's not Trump and because he doesn't like Trump, we'll just pretend that it's a small distinction. We'll pretend that we can all just get along. No, if more people like Kasich were in power, that would be a terrible thing for America. It might, in some philosophical sense, be better than more Trumps, but it's still horrendous. And I don't like those massive differences being whitewashed away because, hey, he doesn't like Trump and he's gonna make an ad for Biden.
So, John, that is exactly right. And it actually goes to the very core of the theme of this first night. Almost every speaker talked about unity versus division. And that is both Biden's greatest strength and his greatest weakness. Because they, of course, talked about it in the context of strength. Biden is going to unite us. Look, we got Republicans, we got like Kasich, we got progressives like Bernie Sanders, we got establishment people like everyone else at the convention. And so he's going to be a uniter. And Donald Trump divided us with his racism and bigotry and attacks against women, etc. That is true. And that is a huge advantage for Joe Biden. It's a massive disadvantage for electing a racist like Donald Trump, right? So on that alone, that ends the conversation for me. But we give you the full context here. So the reality is, why is it also Biden's biggest weakness? Because the only way to paper over our real significant disagreements, John makes the easiest, most clear and correct point, although there's 1,000 of these disagreements that are really, really important. But no, I don't agree with John Kasich. I believe women should control their own bodies. And you can't unify my position and Kasich's position. You just can't. You have to choose. And Biden doesn't want to choose. Again, a great strength of his is empathy. And boy, could we use that at a time where we have this monster in office that doesn't seem to have any empathy at all for anyone else. But the only way to unify us and Kasich and everyone in between is to do nothing, is to just keep the status quo going. And so then he washes his hands of it and goes, hey, I united everybody. I'm not a monster. And I brought competence back. A couple of people mentioned Joe believes in science. One, that's the lowest bar I've ever heard. Two, oh, thank God. It's actually super important to clear that bar. And this guy in office doesn't clear it. And that's the dark times that we live in. So I know what I'm getting with Joe Biden, and that is return to sanity. That is true. But I also know what I'm getting with Joe Biden, which is a return to the status quo. And tonight reinforced both of those things, both for better and for worse.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.